did impact me a lot. And that tells us that there is rampant impunity. And this session is going to focus on how we can work together, how we can bring in all stakeholders together, have a multi-stakeholder approach to end impunity. And that gives me hope, and that puts the smile back on my face, right? Because you live in a world where you don't have any hope. When you hear about, when I heard those numbers, my question was, are we creating a safe environment for our children? My child, my teenagers who are sitting with me, living with me in my house. What I love about this conference is that the program flow is excellent. We talked about trends yesterday, we talked about challenges yesterday, and today we are talking about bridges, and in an hour we are going to talk about solutions. And people who are seated here, please know that we are prescribing solution to the globe, sitting in this room, right? Right here. We have so many experts, and with me here are delegates who are going to prescribe solutions, and many are seated here. Almost everybody who is seated here is going to contribute towards creating a solution that's going to cause. Have you or your organization contributed towards combating any cybercrime? Don't just talk about sexual exploitation among children, in partnership with law enforcement officers, because we are trying to bridge the gap between law enforcement and cyber security professionals. So is there a best practice you think you can share, or a case study, if that's possible?
Without quoting my organization, in fact any organization who runs a cybersecurity program have to work with agencies. In every country they operate in, otherwise you just have the one side of the story. I think which each one of us as an organization have to rely upon.
That's helpful. Thank you very much, Mr. Bital. I'm moving on to Mr. Anupam Agarwal. Mr. Anupam, we have been talking about the encryption in WhatsApp. You know, WhatsApp has backdoors, right? We heard a presentation from one of the students.
1 month back, there has been a nodal officer which has been appointed in India for WhatsApp. Before that, if you have an issue with WhatsApp, you only had an email ID to write to. That's the only recourse you had. Now you have a person here. What is still missing is that WhatsApp is not a legal registered entity still in India. So unless and until we have that policy enablement from the government should be very strict with WhatsApp, saying that if you want to operate in India, register yourself, appoint a director, appoint a person who is the nodal body, who is the nodal person.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I'm moving on to Karnika Seth. Dr. Karnika Seth, you are a Supreme Court lawyer, and you are also a cyber law expert. When it comes to law in combating this crime, do you think there could be a better enforcement? Do you see any gaps?
First of all, Ijm has put me in the right panel, because I do consider myself as a bridge among stakeholders. While I belong to the legal fraternity, I actually work with a lot of stakeholders, including industry, corporate, cybersecurity, education institutions, law enforcement, and so on and so forth. It's a good question. Law, as we, today when we talk about cyber crimes, we know the pace of the rate at which cyber crimes is increasing in the country and globally. And child online protection has taken a center stage, particularly because certain PILs have been brought about in the Supreme Court regarding child pornography.
As this question is going to flow from where Dr. Karnika stopped. She said, implementation of law needs collaboration, and she said, enforcement of law is a challenge. And if I can refer to what Mr. Pendeyola in his presentation said, 98% of the cases struggle without evidence, right?
Many of them say no. I feel very sorry to go to the school. Why did this happen to me only? Not my friends? The sheer lack of self-esteem, the sheer lack of self-respect. Are you prepared to bring them in a buffer state. We have studied that barring victim compensation and a very ill-equipped Ujala, there is no other scheme for the survivors. We have talked to the minorities department. We have talked to the backward class department. We have talked to the many other government departments. They are under the impression we have the schemes.
Once we did that, then we started setting the agenda of our concerns. So we requested to meet with the Ministry of ICT to actually highlight the need to take into consideration some of our concerns. We also met with the ICT committees in Parliament, both in Senate and in National Assembly, and had, a closed meeting that we went clause by clause on what our concerns were. And actually, within that, then we were able to suggest a clause on child safety protection online. One of the things we learned was that there's need to practical examples or something. And so for us, it was very useful to cite African countries that have cybersecurity laws that have tried to balance between freedom of expression and the need to stay safe. And once we did that, that of course called for evidence-based information that required for us to research and give, especially the members of Parliament, those examples and what it is that those countries have done and what it is that we can borrow. And finally, what we also realized that it's very important to map the stakeholders involved in this process, and then what are their roles and responsibilities. And within that, then each stakeholder requires different approaches and strategies to appeal to them. I know my countryman and the deputy in the Office of Director of Public Prosecutions is here. That was one of the offices we engaged with because, one of our concerns was that these cases are not, they had a very limited enforcement rule that somebody could only go in for 6 months. And some of, we were also concerned. But the office also had taken the responsibility of coming up with the law, and we were concerned that that's not its responsibility, it should just be left to enforce. So within that issue, it's very important to come up with different strategies to address those people so that you are able to target them and appeal to them for them to take responsibility. But again, I just must conclude to say that there are dilemmas in cybersecurity. For example, we are getting infrastructure from China, and there have been concerns that that infrastructure is coming and it's embedded with surveillance tools. And there's that concern, is that, how do we deal with that? And how will that help with dealing with cybersecurity? The international companies, for example, the Facebooks, the Googles, we've been told they are sharing our data. And we don't know how that data is being shared. If you come to a meeting where we are, people always close their cameras because they say, even that camera on your laptop is collecting data. How secure are you online, and how do you need to stay safe? So there are basics that everybody can take. For example, setting your privacy settings on your social media accounts, avoiding using cookies on those websites that ask you to approve the cookies because they collect that information. And again, you want your privacy, you want to stay safe online. So I think this is a debate that requires, concerted efforts. It requires views from people concerned so that we're able to come up with firm ways of how to stay safe online.
Yeah, thank you so much. Now, the sting in the tail happens to be that Grace actually doesn't get the last word because we're going to play a video from Pranab Mohanty, IPS 1994 batch. He was looking forward to attend the panel but couldn't because he is in charge of parliamentary affairs. He's in, as I mentioned, IPS from 1994. Held many distinguished positions belonging to the Karnataka cadre. Was presented the President's Police Medal for Meritorious Services in 2010. Awarded the Humphrey Fellowship for 2008-9 by the US Department of State. Affiliated with a variety of professional policing and security agencies while serving the US. Currently serving as Deputy Director General Regional Office for Aadhaar, and has been tasked with the enrollment and seeding of Aadhaar for residents in the South Indian states. Now, very unfortunately, I have to wind up the panel because I have been asked to stop. Obviously, a lot of other panels. We are not at fault. The other panels have taken away our time. So, some of them are sitting in the front rows. You may feel free to beat them up. Now, I have to unfortunately wind up this and then give the space for the video. It's a 5-minute video, and after that, maybe if they allow us, we can take some questions. Otherwise, we'll have to run away. Bye.
That I've done is we have identified what are the commonest forms of violence against children, and then brought governments, civil society, all collaborating partners across one table, but make sure that governments are involved at every stage so that there is an increasing understanding, there is an increasing ownership, and that translates into commitment. So that is something which I think is fundamental in the sense that every panel presenter directly or indirectly said, we need to get the government to do this, or we need to talk to the government, or we need governments to act on this. So one important element is to reach out to the governments, get governments involved, give enough space for the governments to understand and act on it. We are talking about a digital era, and if we know our bureaucracy, we still have governments, bureaucracies that has faded files with half a page of petition, with half a page filled with 101 signatures going from one table to the other. We need a fundamental shift. And unless we do that, bringing all this high-flown idea about whatever is happening in the dark way is not going to penetrate through proactive, effective policy and legal. So that's one part I think is critical. Now for SILOC, what we do is currently one of the issues that came up on my table was the issue of modern slavery. So what is modern slavery? Slavery 150 years ago, it has been put into history. But the actual practice has crept into our traditional customary practices. Look at child marriage. Child marriage is not just about a child getting married. It's about poverty, it's about the whole issue of livelihood, it's the whole issue of sexual exploitation, it's the whole issue of bonded labor. So child marriage is not just a child getting married. For that matter, you look at child labor, look at the bricking industries, look at the coal mines, look at the carpet factories. These are all classical examples of modern slavery. So currently what SILOC is doing, and this I hope will also satisfy my moderator, as part of the work that we are moving forward, we are working on currently on two things. One is refining the regional action plan to end child marriage and identifying what are the key issues in child marriage that needs to be addressed so that we make a dent. You look at all the glossary reports, you look at all the global reports, we are bogged down by age. But the issue is about a child's mortality and morbidity, and we need to look at sexual and reproductive rights. We need to look at contraceptive access. We need to look at nutrition. We need to look at issues that actually directly, and the travel and tourism component on the regional strategy is not adequately addressed. So we are now working on that. And the learnings from this will help me to get that, strengthened in the strategy. But whatever has come out of this, political and the state side. At the same time, us who are here in the hall, 2 days of wonderful discourse, come up with a set of recommendations, then what next? I would feel very unhappy if this is just a glossy report that comes out. I'd like to see IGM, and 1 year, 2 years down the line, we should be able to come back and say, we discussed that, we were able to make these changes. And from Sarawak side, as the Director General of the Intergovernmental Platform driving the violence